misdirection and pretense while looking like the good guys. Meanwhile, speaking of grand conspiracies, we know that instead of indicting the two-headed Dem-Republican monster that inhabits Washington, D.C., the Arianna Huffingtons will keep shoveling in the money for droning on and on about how much better things would be if it weren't for gargoyles like Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz. They may as well be talking about how great things would be if the Joker would ease up on Batman. Speaking of naivete, here's another way that the concept gets a little distorted in the hall of mirrors in which we find ourselves when we lift the veil woven by corporatist media and good old-fashioned dominant culture values. Speaking of mind control, people who think that spells, incantations, mantras, and such are relics from the past, or devices used only by primitive cultures to manipulate their superstitious masses, are not as sophisticated as they might think. Those are not things from a bygone age. They are ingrained in the fabric of our present-day world culture and are mainstays of political persuasion and the churning world of commerce, which is a nicer way of saying the unquestioning, nationalist, consumerist mindset that drives the lemming-like parade and charade that comprises most of our lives. We may stop being required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance when we leave high school, but we never really escape the onslaught of bumper sticker-ish rhetoric that's designed to keep us in line. We may as well call it a spell. I'm talking about the widely held belief, in the U.S., that the U.S. is the world's foremost bastion of freedom, decency, and honor. And any who don't swallow that idea, much less stand against it, are terrorists. Whistleblowers are seen as traitors who aid and abet the enemy, who, as George W. Bush conveniently explained, is anyone who is not for his policies. Pretty convenient, isn't it? And President Obama, who promised to close Guantanamo, continues that tradition. Divide and conquer, it's not a mantra that the elites, the Illuminati, or the 1% or any of that choose to utter publicly, but it's one that is a pillar of their strategy to retain and consolidate power. They know the more we, this is hard. They know that the more we feel threatened and marginalized, the more we faction against each other. And the more we faction against each other, the more threatened and marginalized we are. That's some deal that those elites have working for them. It's some kind of deal. It's a vicious cycle for most of the world's people, but a winning strategy for the world's owners. Are there owners? Yes. When the 6 members of the Walton family who own Walmart have as much wealth as the bottom 50% of Americans, well, we won't even go into the Koch brothers right now. Let's just say they're happy that they've managed to herd Americans into 2 camps labeled conservative and liberal or progressive, and that they can use the resulting gridlock to paralyze the public while they continue to bust unions, attack women's reproductive rights, and also the fight for equal pay in the workplace. George Washington said he feared the day might come when a couple of powerful political parties might own the United States government. Well, it didn't take long, did it? My own candidacy proved how much the Coke versus Pepsi system fears any difference, any kind of an alternative. But we won't roll over because surrender is not an option. option. The greedy, paranoid control freaks who are pulling their wagons in a circle and trying to tighten the noose around what is left of our freedoms must be fought on every level. And that is what we will do. I ask you, what else is worth doing? Cathy and I and Mark are friends, and though we seldom see each other, we do talk on the phone all the time, frequently, and we always talk about what we can do to help people who are dissociative. Because people who are dissociative have already been under some form of mind control, even if it's internal, and are at great risk right now. At great risk. Dissociation is a created state of terror. Forgetting and remembering in fragments of time, hiding things from yourself, and then finding them in forgotten places years later, wearing different eyeglass prescriptions, during the day, being allergic to things, and then not being allergic to those same things within weeks are all part of it. But the most useful part of all mind control and dissociation is that it makes tolerance of the intolerable appear normal. That is what was needed for power to control the citizens of any given nation. When the intolerable and the unspeakable are spoken and recognized and named, identified, they can be properly opposed. When woven into visibility, they no longer lurk in the shadows of the secret dark places, and only then things can become ripe for change. This is that time. Because, of the internet and for as long as we'll have it, for as long as we'll be allowed to have it. To those who are divided by violence, trauma, shock, or awe, are there people here like that? For my sake and yours, anybody who is divided at all or has PTSD or any kind of stuff like that, internal conflict, thank God we have, and I say that, thank God we have marijuana. Holy ganja, and I'm one of those people because I know that this is a holy thing that can remove mind control.
Bless.
The legal drugs are the ones that keep it in place. So right there, I don't think really you need to know more than that about how mind control works. I don't think so. That's it in a nutshell. Keeping people unaware of what they're doing helps you respond to panic programming. The mentally divided are being activated at this time because a fugue state and a fugue state enacted. Horrors inflicted with no awareness whatsoever of being present while you do it. Writing down what you feel is the key, an easy key, to unlock the prison doors of mind control. Especially like if you smoke a joint and then write. That is that's two revolutionary acts in a time of complete and utter bullshit, lies. I know people, I don't really know what people are expecting me to talk about today. I know that I talked about mind control in Hollywood and all that stuff, which actually is something about Mark knows far more than I do, and I'll probably be talking about it too, right? People who are in show business generally are people who, you know, have a great need to be loved and accepted, perform, and to get love and, you know, positive feedback back from it. That's what drives most artists and stuff. So they're very, very sensitive people, and when, you know, sensitive people are like lights or moths and vampires and zombies and perverts. The more creative you are, the more sensitive you are, the more you really, really need to be able to employ some sort of self-protection, so that not just always accepting things, because that is part of being a survivor of mind control too, is that you using all of that new age stuff, which is the same crap as the old age stuff. You know, people, it drives me crazy sometimes as people are like, oh, I'm so forgiving and loving, I'm so wonderfully pacifist, loving and forgiving, and everything is wonderful, and we're all, you know, it's just bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's harmful, horrible, negative, murderous bullshit, because it keeps people from getting up off their butts and